Hello and welcome back to the reading of the Bible. We're still on Genesis, and I've actually decided to change it from 4 chapters to 6 chapters just because I was thinking about it. And I'd like to be able to get through more of the Bible each year because I was thinking about it. And after 10 weeks, we still would not have gotten through all of Genesis because that's 4 chapters a week. I was going to say, we would have, if we started with 6 at the very beginning, we would have gotten through it just before 10 weeks, and I'd like to get through at least, a couple books a year. But anyways, sorry, why don't I actually start? We are on Genesis chapter 17. Abram becomes Abraham. Let me put on my glasses, sorry. And after he began to be 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and I will make my covenant between me and thee. I will multiply thee exceedingly. Abraham fell flat on his face, and God said to him, I am, and my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name be called any more Abram, but thou shalt be called Abraham, because I have made thee a father of many nations. There's a note on that before we continue on. Chapter 17, verse 5. Abram in the Hebrew signifies a high father, but Abraham, the father of the multitude. Sarai signifies my lady, but Sarah, lady, pardon me. And I will make thee increase exceedingly, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and between thy seed after thee and their generations, by a perpetual covenant to be a God to thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give to thee and to thy seed the land of thy sojourn, all the land of Canaan, for a perpetual possession, and I will be their God. Covenant is circumcision. Again God said to Abraham, And thou therefore shalt keep my covenant, and thy seed after thee and their generations. This is my covenant which you shall observe, between me and you and thy seed after thee. All the male kind of you shall be circumcised, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, that it may be for a sign of the covenant between me and you. An infant of 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations. He that is born in the house, as well as the bought servant, shall be circumcised, and whosoever is not of your stock, my covenant shall be in your flesh for a perpetual covenant. The male, whose flesh of his foreskin shall not be circumcised, that soul shall be destroyed out of his people, because he hath broken my covenant. Sarai becomes Sarah. God said also to Abraham, Sarai, thy wife, thou shalt not call Sarai, but Sarah, and I will bless her, and of her I will give thee a son, whom I will bless, and he shall become nations, and kings of people shall spring from him. Isaac is promised by God. Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, saying in his heart, Shall the son, thinkest thou, be born to him that is 100 years old, and shall Sarah that is 90 years old bring forth? And he said to God, Oh, that Ishmael may live before thee. And God said to Abraham, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for a perpetual covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have also heard thee. Behold, I will bless him and increase and multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 chiefs, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bring forth to thee at this time in the next year. And when he had left off speaking with him, God went up from Abraham. All males of Abraham's house are circumcised. And Abraham took Ishmael and all that were born in his house, and all whom he had bought, every male among the men of his house. And he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin forthwith that very same day, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 99 years old when he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael the son was full 13 years old at the time of his circumcision. The selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house, as well they that were born in the house, as the bought servants and strangers, were circumcised with him. Chapter 18. 3 strangers visit Abraham. And the Lord appeared to him in the vale of Mamre, as he was sitting at the door of his tent in the very heat of the day. And when he had lifted up his eyes, there appeared to him 3 men standing near him. And as soon as he saw them, he ran to meet them from the door of his tent, and adored down to the ground. And he said, Lord, if I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away from thy servant, but I will fetch a little water, and wash ye your feet, and rest ye under the tree. And I will set a morsel of bread, and strengthen ye your heart. Afterwards ye shall pass on, for therefore are you come aside to your servant. And they said, Do as thou hast spoken. Abraham made haste into the tent to Sarah, and said to her, Make haste, temper together 3 measures of flour, make cakes upon the hearth. And he himself ran to the herd, and took from thence a calf very tender and very good, and gave it to a young man who made haste and boiled it. He took also butter and milk, and the calf which he had boiled, and set before them. But he stood by them under the tree. A son is promised to Sarah. And when they had eaten, they said to him, Where is Sarah, thy wife? He answered, Lo, she is in the tent. And he said to him, I will return and come to thee at this time, life accompanying, and Sarah thy wife shall have a son. Which when Sarah heard, she laughed behind the door of the tent. Now they were both old and far advanced in years, and they had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. And she laughed secretly, saying, After I am grown old, and my Lord is an old man, shall I give myself to pleasure? And the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I, who am an old woman, bear a child indeed? Is there anything hard to God? According to appointment I will return to thee at this same time, life accompanying, and Sarah shall have a son. Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. But the Lord said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. Wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah. And when the men rose up from thence, they turned their eyes towards Sodom, and Abraham walked with them, bringing them on the way. And the Lord said, Can I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing he shall become a great and mighty nation, and in him all the nations of the earth shall be blessed? For I know that he will command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord, and do judgment and justice, that for Abraham's sake the Lord may bring to effect all the things he hath spoken unto him. The Lord said, The cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is multiplied, and their sin is becoming exceedingly grievous. I will go down and see whether they have done according to the cry that has come to me, or whether it be not so, that I may know. Chapter 18, verse 21. I will go down. The Lord here accommodates his discourse to the way of speaking and acting among men, for he knows all things and needs not go anywhere for information. Note here that 2 of the 3 angels went away immediately for Sodom, while the third, who represented the Lord, remained with Abraham. Abraham intercedes for the people of Sodom. And they turned themselves from thence and went their way to Sodom. But Abraham as yet stood before the Lord. And drawing nigh, he said, Wilt thou destroy the city? Wilt thou destroy the just with the wicked? If there be 50 just men in the city, shall they perish withal? And wilt thou not spare that place for the sake of the 50 just, if they be therein? Far be it from thee to do this thing, and to slay the just with the wicked, and for the just to be in like case as the wicked. This is not beseeming thee. Thou who judgest all the earth, wilt not make this judgment. And the Lord said to him, If I find in Sodom 50 just within the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. And Abraham answered and said, Seeing I have once begun, I will speak to my Lord, whereas I am dust and ashes. What if there be less than 50 just persons? Wilt thou for 5 and 40 destroy the whole city? And he said, I will not destroy it, if I find 5 and 40. And again he said to him, But if 40 be found there, what wilt thou do? He said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 40. Lord, saith he, be not angry, I beseech thee. If I speak, what if 30 shall be found there? He answered, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. Seeing, saith he, I have once begun, I will speak to my Lord. What if 20 be found there? He said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. I beseech thee, saith he, be not angry, Lord. If I speak yet once more, what if 10 should be found there? And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. And the Lord departed, after he had left speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 19. Lot entertains 2 angels. And the angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of the city. And seeing them, he rose up and went to meet them, and worshipped prostrate to the ground, and said, I beseech you, my lords, turn into the house of your servant, and lodge there, wash your feet, and in the morning you shall go on your way. And they said, No, but we will abide in the street. He pressed them very much to turn in unto him, and when they were come into his house, he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. The angels blind the men of Sodom. But before they went to bed, the men of the city beset the house, both young and old, and all the people together. And they called Lot, and said to him, Where are the men that came into thee at night? Bring them out hither, that we may know them. Lot went out to them, and shut the door after him, and said, Do not so, I beseech you, my brethren, do not commit this evil. I have 2 daughters who as yet have not known man. I will bring them out to you and abuse you them as it shall please you, so that you do not do evil to these men, because they are coming under the shadow of my roof. But they said, Get thee back thither. And again they came and said, They, as a stranger, was it to be a judge. Therefore we will afflict thee more than them. And they pressed very violently upon Lot, and they were even at the point of breaking open the doors. And behold, the men put out their hand, and drew in Lot unto them, and shut the door. And them that were without they struck with blindness from the least to the greatest, so that they could not find the door. Destruction of Sodom foretold. And they said to Lot, Hast thou here any of thine, son-in-law or sons or daughters, all that are thine, bring them out of this city? For we will destroy this place, because their cry is grown loud before the Lord, who hath sent us to destroy them. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law that were to have his daughters, and said, Arise, get you out of this place, because the Lord will destroy the city. And he seemed to them to speak as it were in jest. The angels urged Lot to leave the city. And when it was morning, the angels pressed him, saying, Arise, take thy wife and the 2 daughters which thou hast, lest thou also perish in the wickedness of the city. And as he lingered, they took his hand, and the hand of his wife, and of his 2 daughters, because the Lord spared him. Lot is sent to the mountain. And they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And there they spoke to him, saying, Save thy life, look not back, neither stay thou in all the country about, but save thyself in the mountain, lest thou be also consumed. And Lot said to them, I beseech thee, my lord, because thy servant hath found grace before thee, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown to me, and saved my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil seize me and I die. There is the city here at hand, to which I may flee. It is a little one, and I shall be saved in it. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? And he said to him, Behold, also in this I have heard thy prayers, not to destroy the city for which thou hast spoken. Make haste and be safe there, because I cannot do anything till thou go in thither. Therefore the name of that city was called Segor, and that translation is a little one. Destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The sun was risen upon the earth, and Lot entered into Segor. And the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he destroyed the cities and all the country about all the inhabitants of the cities, and all things that sprang from the earth. Lot's wife becomes a statue of salt, and his wife, looking behind her, was turned into a statue of salt. And his wife, as a standing memorial to the servants of God to proceed in virtue, not to look back to vice or its allurements. Abraham sees the destruction. And Abraham got up early in the morning, and in the place where he had stood before with the Lord, he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and the whole end of the country, and he saw the ashes rise up from the earth as the smoke of a furnace. Now when God destroyed the cities of that country, remembering Abraham, he delivered Lot out of the destruction of the cities wherein he had dwelt. The sin of Lot's daughters. And Lot went up out of Segor and abode in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he was afraid to stay in Segor. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters with him. And the elder said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is no man left in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of the whole earth. Come, let us make him drunk with wine, and let us lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the elder went in and lay with her father. But he perceived not neither when his daughter lay down, nor when she rose up. And the next day the elder said to the younger, Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine also tonight, and thou shalt lie with him, that way we may save seed of her father. They made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and lay with him, and neither when did he perceive when she lay down, nor when she rose up. So the 2 daughters of Lot were with child with their father, and the elder bore a son, and she called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites unto this day. The younger also bore a son, and she called his name Ammon. That is the son of my people. He is the father of the Ammonites unto this day. Chapter 20. Abraham dwells in Gerar. Abraham removed from thence to the south country, and dwelt between Cades and Sur, and sojourned in Gerar. And he said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. So Abimelech the king of Gerar sent and took her. God commands Abimelech to restore Sarah. And God said to Abimelech in a dream by night, and he said to him, Lo, thou shalt die for the woman thou hast taken, for she hath a husband. Now Abimelech had not touched her, and he said, Lord, wilt thou slay a nation that is ignorant and just? Did not he say to me, She is my sister, and she say, He is my brother? In the simplicity of my heart and cleanness of my hands have I done this. And God said to him, And I know that thou didst with a sincere heart, and therefore I withheld thee from sinning against me. And I suffered thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. But if thou wilt not restore her, know that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine. Abimelech reproves Abraham. And Abimelech forthwith rose up in the night, called all his servants, and spoke all these words in their hearing. And all the men were exceedingly afraid. And Abimelech called also for Abraham, and said to him, What hast thou done to us? What have we offended thee in, that thou hast brought upon me and upon my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done to us what thou oughtest not to do. And again he expostulated with him, and he said, What sawest thou that thou hast done this? Abraham answered, I thought with myself, saying, Perhaps there is not the fear of God in this place, and they will kill me for the sake of my wife. Howbeit otherwise also she is surely my sister, the daughter of my father, and not the daughter of my mother. And I took her to wife. And after God brought me out of my father's house, I said to her, Thou shalt do me this kindness, in every place to which we shall come. Thou shalt say that I am thy brother. Abimelech restored Sarah to Abraham. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen, and servants and handmaids, and gave to Abraham, and restored to him Sarah his wife, and said, The land is before you, dwell wheresoever it shall please thee. And to Sarah he said, Behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. This shall serve thee for a covering of thy eyes to all that are with thee, and whithersoever thou shalt go, and remember that was taken. Abraham's prayers bring children to Abimelech. And when Abraham prayed, God healed Abimelech and his wife and his handmaids, and they bore children. For the Lord had closed up every room of the house of Abimelech on account of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Chapter 21. Birth of Isaac. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had promised, and fulfilled what he had spoken. And she conceived and bore a son in her old age at the time that God had foretold her. And Abraham called the name of his son, whom Sarah bore him, Isaac. And he circumcised him the 8th day, as God had commanded him, when he was 100 years old, for at this age of his father was Isaac born. Then Sarah said, God hath made a laughter for me. Whosoever shall hear of it will laugh with me. And again she said, Who would believe that Abraham should hear that Sarah gave suck to a son, whom she bore to him in his old age? And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day of his weaning. Agar and Ishmael driven out. And when Sarah had seen... And when Sarah had seen the son of Agar, the Egyptian, playing with Isaac her son, she said to Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with my son Isaac. Abraham took this grievously for his son. And Abraham said to him, Let it not be seem grievous to thee for the boy and for thy bondwoman and all that Sarah hath said to thee. Hearken to her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. But I will make thee I'll read this later. Not like what we're reading right now. There's as I said last time, there's a couple of pictures, and I am quite curious, not kind of curious about this, but since I'm already currently reading the Bible, I should, well, yes. Son, also of the bondwoman, a great nation, because he is thy seed. So Abraham rose up in the morning, and taking bread and a bottle of water, put it upon her shoulder, and delivered the boy, and sent her away. And she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beerseba. And when the water in the bottle was spent, she cast the boy under one of the trees that were there. And she went her way, and sat over against him a great way off, as far as a bow can carry. For she said, I will not see the boy die. And sitting over against, she lifted up her voice and wept. God protects Agar and Ishmael. And God heard the voice of the boy, and an angel of God called to Agar from heaven, saying, What art thou doing, Agar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the boy from the place wherein he is. Arise, take up the boy, and hold him by the hand. For I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and went and filled the bottle, and gave the boy to drink. And God was with him, and he grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became a young man, an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took a wife for him out of the land of Egypt. The covenant between Abraham and Abimelech. At the same time, Abimelech and Phicol, the general of his army, said to Abraham, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Swear therefore by God that thou wilt not hurt me, nor my posterity, nor my stock, but according to the kindness that I have done to thee, thou shalt do to me, and to the land wherein thou hast lived a stranger. And Abraham said, I will swear. And he reproved Abimelech for a well of water, which his servants had taken away by force. And Abimelech answered, I knew not who did this thing, and thou didst not tell me, and I heard not of it till today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them to Abimelech, and both of them made a league. And Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs of the flock. And Abimelech said to him, What mean these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set apart? But he said, Thou shalt take 7 ewe lambs at my hand, that they shall be a testimony for me, that I dug this well. Therefore that place was called Beerseba, because they are both of them did swear. First, Beerseba, the well of oath, is what that stands for. And they made a league for the well of oath. And Abraham plants a grove. And Abimelech and Phicol, the general of the army, arose and returned to the land of the Palestines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beerseba, and there called upon the name of the Lord God Eternal. And he was a sojourner in the land of the Palestines many days. Chapter 22. Abraham told to sacrifice Isaac. After these things, God tempted Abraham and said to him, Abraham, Abraham. And he answered, Here I am. And God tempteth no man to evil, James 1:13, but by trial and experiment makes known to the world and to ourselves that we are, as here by this trial, the singular faith and obedience of Abraham was made manifest. He said to him, Take thy only begotten son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and go into the land of vision. And there thou shalt offer him for an holocaust upon one of the mountains which I shall show thee. Faith and obedience of Abraham. So Abraham, rising up in the night, saddled his ass, and took with him 2 young men, and Isaac his son. And when he had cut wood for the holocaust, he went his way to the place where God had commanded him. And on the 3rd day, lifting up his eyes, he saw the place afar off. Then he said to his young men, Stay you here with this ass. I and the boy will go with the speed as far as yonder. And after we have worshipped, we'll return to you. And he took the wood for the holocaust and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he himself carried in his hands fire and a sword. As they went on together, Isaac said to his father, My father. And he answered, What wilt thou, son? Behold, saith he, fire and wood. Where is the victim for the holocaust? And Abraham said, God will provide himself for a victim for an holocaust, my son. So they went on together, and they came to the place which God had shown him, where he built an altar and laid the wood in order upon it. And when he had bound Isaac his son, he laid him on the altar upon the pile of wood. And he put forth his hand and took the sword to sacrifice his son. And behold, an angel of the Lord from heaven called to him, saying, Abraham, Abraham. And he answered, Here I am. And he said to him, Lay not thy hand upon the boy, neither do thou anything to him. Now that I know that thou fearest God, and hast not spared the only begotten son for my sake. Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw behind his back a ram amongst the briars, sticking fast by the horns, which he took and offered for a holocaust instead of his son. And he called the name of that place, The Lord Seeth. Whereupon, even to this day it is said, In the mountain the Lord will see. Renewal of promises to Abraham. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven, saying, By my own self have I sworn, saith the Lord, because thou hast done this thing, and hast not spared thy only begotten son for my sake. I will bless thee, and I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand that is by the seashore. Thy seed shall possess the gates of their enemies, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. Abraham returned to his young men, and they went to Beerseba together, and he dwelt there. Descent of Rebekah from Nahor. After these things it was told Abraham that Milcah also had borne children to Nachor his brother, Hus the firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of the Syrians, and Cased, and Azua, and Feldus, and Jebelith, and Bethuel, of whom was born Rebekah. These 8 did Milcah bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine named Droma bore Tebi, and Gaham, and Tahas, and Makkah. Okay, so we are now at chapter 23, which we will read next week. Next week we will read, chapter 23, chapter 24, chapter 25, and 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. So that's just as a we will be getting into Isaac next week a little bit more. I was going to say not too much more, but I believe that after that we will get to Jacob, but that is a little bit away. So I'm going to say we were just getting into we are just beginning on a wonderful story through the Bible. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you all have a great week, and God bless. Thank you very much.